Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am your host, David Struggy, and here in the room with me, I have a very special guest with me today. Welcome, Mr. Brad Twigg. Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you began getting into the filmmaking process? I know it's a little different for everyone, but why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Basically, I've just been a fan of movies since I was a kid. I used to hit up the video stores all the time, rent any kind of horror movie or action movie or any, comedy, a little bit of everything. But horror was always my first love. Basically, my grandfather had a video camera, just like a old school VHS camcorder.
Okay.
When I was in middle school, he let me use it, and I just started, shooting stuff with my friends, kind of running around in the backyard with fake blood and zombie makeup and stuff, and kind of snowballed from there. And been making, made all those shorts and as a kid, and finally, 24, I believe it was like 2013, something around there. I made my first feature, which was Ghoulish Tales, and been making movies ever since.
Awesome. So I'm gonna ask you about your first film, Ghoulish Tales. Now that came about from some short films that you began creating a little bit before you began the project, or
That was Ghoulish Tales was shot. It's an anthology, but it was shot as a feature.
okay,
Um, they weren't like existing shorts or anything that I just
okay.
compiled.
So
Um, Go ahead.
ultimately, you now there's a difference in anthologies for some people. Some people actually have a wraparound where they you know, just have someone else send a few short films in. So, but this one is three short films that you created yourself.
Right. Yeah. Kind of was going for more of the. I'm more of a fan. I'm not so much of a fan of the newer style anthologies where the segments aren't connected and it's just kind of like a shorts compilation. I'm much more into like Creep Show and Tales from the Dark Side,
Okay.
Tales from the Hood, all that kind of stuff. And that's more what I was going for, the more traditional horror anthology
Okay.
setup.
Now, did you have anyone else writing some of the stories at the time, or was it?
Yes. I wrote some of them, and a friend of mine, Leslie Monk, who I still work with to this day, she wrote some of them, and it was just kind of like a. This was our first time attempting to make a feature. It was very very low budget. Trying to get that shot on. I'm a big fan of the shot on video horror movies
Okay.
from like the 80s and early 90s. We were kind of trying to pay tribute to the shot on video movies as well as the more classic horror anthologies, and
Okay.
kind of what we were going for. But it was definitely a big learning experience, and you know it is what it is. But
Understood. How did you go about and find some of your actors? Were they just friends that you knew at the time, or?
that was everybody. We did casting for that one, so we had auditions. We advertised in
Okay.
various places, and we rented out an area and scheduled for auditions. We did it on a weekend, and we had quite a few people show up, and we picked most of the cast from that. I mean, there are a few like in the smaller roles, few friends and stuff, but for the most part, it was from the auditions.
Cool. And where did you shoot? Where was this the film shot? Um,
We shot it kind of all over, but mainly we shot a lot of it in Martinsburg, West Virginia, Hagerstown, Maryland, just some different areas, kind of surrounding areas around those two main cities.
okay. And how was this film's reception to the independent community at that point in time?
Um, I it never really got out there so much. I just self released it, and mainly just what I heard back from the convention circuit of me selling it myself at various horror conventions. The people that bought it from me directly, anybody that I heard from, it was mostly positive for the most part. Some people, have posted online that it sucks and everything, which is, you know, that everybody has their own. I mean, it's definitely no work, master work or anything, but yeah, for the most part, it was well received. But of course, there's people that don't like it as well, which is with any movie, but especially with very low budget movies.
Totally understand on that point. So, ultimately, after Ghoulish Tales, then you went into the short film The House of Profane, which ultimately you put it out on an anthology just not too recently, but we'll get to that.
I actually did MILFs versus Zombies.
You did that one first?
Ghoulish Tales, yep.
Okay. Well, why
On
don't
IMDb, it kind of, for some reason, it lists the short first, but
Gotcha. So why don't we go into Mills versus Zombies? Did you use any previous cast members from Ghoulish Tales and Mills versus Zombies?
I did. I used Rosanna Nelson. There was Erica Jones, Jenny Janetti. There's quite a few. Daniel K. Johnson. Quite a few cast members from Ghoulish Tales that I worked with on Mills versus Zombies. But again, we did the whole casting thing and held auditions, and we found a lot of people that way. And some of the actors recommended other actors as well, which I always love when they do that, because a lot of times that I can find out about people I would have never known about, and that a lot of people turned out great. Like I know Linda and David Witt. I had not worked with them before, but they were recommended by Andrea Marie,
Okay.
and they were great. I actually just worked with them on a short this weekend.
Awesome.
But yeah, they a lot of I found a lot of people, kind of everybody helping everybody out, kind of that, because it's the indie horror world is a very small, close knit type family type setup. So everybody tries to help everybody out. So it's a good thing. It's great.
Which is awesome. Now, ultimately, did you do some of the writing on Mills versus Zombies, or did someone else write it?
I did some of the writing. And Leslie Monk again
Okay.
did some of the writing.
Awesome. And now you also filmed this feature in Martinsburg, West Virginia as well, correct?
Yeah, I shot a lot of it there. Again, like some of it was shot in Baltimore, Maryland, Hagerstown, Maryland,
Okay.
Berryville, Virginia.
Okay.
These are the surrounding areas of Martinsburg.
All right. Cool. Now, is there anything that you can remember that anything weird that might have happened on either one of these two sets that you could share with us?
Oh man, um, MILFs was a lot of fun to make. It was such a goofy movie that we just had a lot of fun making it and had fun with it. As far as like crazy stuff happening, I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are things that happen. I'm drawing a blank. But,
It's cool. It's
yeah,
cool.
I'll try to think on it. And if anything comes to me, I'll have to mention it. But my mind is terrible.
Oh yeah.
So
Sometimes things happen on set, and it's like yeah, you go on with what you're doing, and you just don't think about it. But later, it's like you go back and laugh about it.
right.
So,
Well, there's a scene with the actress Ophelia Rain where she gets attacked in the kitchen.
okay.
That that was the scene was set up, but she added a lot to it on her own. Like she was like, well, let's do it this way. And so she ended up taking the scene to the extreme, to say the least. But there was so much blood and stuff we used. We shot it in a kitchen, and in between takes, she's naked, sliding around on the floor in the blood, just like a giddy school kid. sliding from one end of the kitchen to the other. So that's something that comes to mind. That was kind of amusing.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun with that scene.
Okay. Cool. Now, ultimately, after MILFs versus Zombies, you went into a couple of anthologies called Frames of Fear and Fiendish Fables.
Yep, did Fiendish first, and then Frame second after that.
How did you come up with the idea concepts for those?
Fiendish Fables was again Leslie and I. We well, I'm a huge anthology fan. That's why I made so many. As a movie fan, I own a lot of them and enjoy watching them. So and they're fun to make because you don't get so burned out with just sticking to one story. It's a mixed bag of different. Each segment can have its own tone and
Oh, yeah.
everything. It's a lot of fun. But we wanted to do something cool that revolved around this old creepy book, and we kind of originally, and we intended it to be more fable based to go with the title.
Okay.
I mean, there is some, as far as like Leslie's segment with the Spider Woman thing. It's based. I can't. The name escapes me, but it's based on some kind of Japanese fable of a woman that when she lives for so, or the spider lives for so long, it turns into a female, and it can like seduce men and like suck their blood and take their souls or something like that.
Yeah,
But
believe it or not, I think I saw something like that on a anthology, Japanese anthology called Dark Tales of Japan.
oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, I've never seen that one, but
But
he's big into like Japanese anime and stuff. Like she's a fan of that, so I don't know if that came from that or what, but yeah, that one was actually based on a fable, but the other ones really weren't so much. But due to budgetary constraints and everything, we kind of couldn't go as in depth as we wanted to, but that was the original plan. But either way, we just kind of wanted to make this based on this cool book and these stories from this book that's been around for ages, and that was kind of the gist of that.
okay. Now, ultimately, you ended up hooking up with George Stober through some of these anthologies. How did
Oh
you?
yeah, George has been since Ghoulish Tales. George has been in all of my feature films. The only things he has, I don't think, has been in, or some like the shorts, but all the features, George. I try to always put George in because I'm a huge fan of George Stover, and
Okay.
always try to put him in it, anything I can. I've watched his movies for ages and got meeting him, sweetest guy you'll ever meet. Absolutely the nicest guy in the world, and he's just so fun to work with, and it's I always get like starstruck when I work with him still because it's like it's George Stover. But yeah, he's great. I always love working with George.
Awesome. Now, ultimately, how did you get involved with the actor who which we'll talk about Wrestle Massacre later
Sure.
in a little bit, but the main actor Richie,
Rishi Acevedo.
correct.
Yep.
How did you get involved with him?
That came about with MILFs. He doesn't live really close to me. He's few probably about, I don't know, I'd say actually about 5 hours away from me. But
Okay.
he found out about MILFs and heard about the casting and contacted me and everything. And he's like, "You want to put a wrestler in your movie?" kind of thing. And he hadn't really done any acting before this, and said it was something he was interested in, and he'd like to kind of try his hand at it. And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And he showed up. Unfortunately, there was more to the scene he was in that we were going to film, but
Mhm.
they weren't able to make it back due to scheduling conflicts. But it's in the deleted scenes on the DVD. But yeah, he showed up for that for a day to do a scene, and I enjoyed working with him. And he got much more into acting. Like he started doing a lot more projects, and I've worked with him a few times on various projects.
Okay.
Yeah, Richie's great. He's a good guy to work with.
Awesome. Ultimately, did you work with anyone from your previous features on Frames of Fear or Fiendish Fables?
Yep. We have Chris O'Braki, another person I forgot to mention earlier. Love Chris. He was in Ghoulish Tales, and he went on to be in MILFs and Fiendish Fables, and he's another one that I've worked with. Rosanna Nelson again. Rick Germain. I've worked with him on Fiendish Fables, MILFs versus Zombies, and a bunch of stuff. But he's somebody that carried over from MILFs. And Jesse L. Green, another person that started with he just showed up to play a zombie, MILFs versus Zombies, and he was like, "Can I come again? Can I come again?" He just wanted, so we just kept dressing him up as different zombies, and he was so enthusiastic about it. And on, I've been working with him, still work with him to this day. A lot of these actors, the once it's kind of like I mentioned before, it's like a family. When you meet these people and you get to know them, you become friends, and we all just we love working together. We have fun, and I like to work with new people, of course, but I always like to, there's like my core group that I love working with and try to work with as much as I can.
Totally understand. So ultimately, now because grindsploitation became a thing, you started submitting some of your short films to grindsploitation. How's that work?
It's cool. Basically, Tony Newton had he had contacted me, I believe, and was interested in me doing seeing if I had any segments for I think it was 60 Seconds to Die was what the first thing we talked about.
Okay.
And so I shot a couple things for that, and then he mentioned the grindsploitation. I shot some stuff for that, and it just kind of went on from there. Whenever he had like another one coming up, he would just see if I had anything or wanted to shoot anything, and I try to. It's kind of like a curse, but I can't. I constantly stay busy doing these movies, and like even in my downtime and stuff, it's like, well, I have this weird idea. I'm going to run out and shoot this weird short and whatever, and
Especially in the age of booming anthology.
yeah. So he's some of this stuff I've been doing. He's given it a place to be seen as part of the series. So it's cool. And Trauma, I love Trauma. Been a huge fan of Trauma since I was a little kid. So it's really cool to be
part of
featured in something that they're putting out. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
So ultimately, in between all of this, you went out and started Indiegogoing a project called Killer Campout.
Yep.
How did that work out for you?
Killer Campout, I think is a really fun movie. Out of everything I made, that's my favorite movie. From what I've out of all the projects I've directed, and it's basically my love letter to the '80s slasher movies I grew up watching on VHS as a kid, and basically it's about this crazy backwoods dude named Gene Blackwell, who's like some psycho cannibal hermit living out in the middle of nowhere, and these youth counselors bring these troubled teens out for a weekend at confrontational like therapy sessions, and to like face their issues and their fears and whatnot. And well, I guess not fears, but
kind of like a sleepover camp, Friday the 13th kind of vibe, eh?
Right, yeah. And they cross paths with this crazy dude, and he starts slashing everybody up for dinner. And it's I love the movie The Mutilator.
Okay.
Just Before Dawn. Those are two big influences for that movie.
Okay.
I try to kind of capture a little bit of that. Then Friday the 13th, obviously, you can't leave that out, and just all those fun '80s slasher movies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
That's when Gary Lee Vincent, and he came on as an executive producer and played a role in the movie. That was the first time working with him, and we still work together too. But it's like each project, it seems like new people get involved, and it's great because I find more people that are interested in this kind of thing, and it's great to add them onto the team and just build everything, even bigger. And with each movie, I try to learn from the previous movies and make changes to make better each film and keep progressing.
Exactly.
But
And
that's pretty much my goal with all these. Just try to keep making them more entertaining and better, and do my best to give people something to pass an hour and a half of their time and not feel like they wasted it. Just escape reality and get lost in these crazy B movie gore fests.
most definitely. Ultimately, after now with Killer Campout, did you also film that on location in Martinsburg?
That was shot in Middletown, Maryland. It was shot in a wooded, like, there was a guy who had a house he had just bought there, but it needed to be fixed up, and he wasn't there a lot. So his name was Alex. He was kind enough to let us shoot. There was lots of wooded area and stuff around there, and
Okay.
he was kind enough to let us shoot there. And most of the movie is shot there, but some of it, I mean, there's a little bit was shot in Martinsburg and Hagerstown, but for the most part, like 90% of it was shot in Middletown, Maryland.
Okay. How's your relationship been with many of your actors through many of these features that we have talked about?
Oh, it's been great. Like I said, I've made so many amazing friends out of these actors. Like, they come on as actors, but we become friends, and it's a lot more. I love these guys. They're amazing. Like, they've made my life better. By just meeting them and getting to know them, and even without the movies and stuff. I mean, it's people that I would go hang out with just to do it. Not because we're making a movie or anything. They're just I've met some really amazing people, and I'm very thankful for that.
Okay. Now I understand that you went and did a Frames of Fear 2 anthology somewhere in between.
Yep.
And you're planning a third that it will uh, eventually be coming out. How has your reception been of the anthologies that you've created?
People have liked them. They're two pretty different films, part one and part two. And part three, I think, will be different as well. I actually just shot a segment for that this weekend.
Okay.
The first one's a lot more comedic, but not the whole movie. I mean, every segment's different, but for the most part, a lot of the segments are comedic, and it's again another tribute to the shot on video, cheesy shot on video movies from the 80s and 90s, and it's over the top and crazy, and it's just more like a fun kind of just brainless, horror movie for gore fans. And the second the second one is more extreme and more, I think, a little more serious. But at the same time, it's just like the gore and everything is just we upped it and kind of went to please the gore fans on that one.
Okay.
And I think part three will be a mixture of both. I think we'll kind of tie them. If you put both one and two together, it's kind of like you get three.
Okay.
They had a baby. They had a baby, and it's going to be three.
I like that concept. Anyways, ultimately, how did you come up with the concept of Wrestle Massacre?
Well, we did what Frames of Fear 1. We did our segment was called Wrestle Massacre, and it was like this crazy psycho wrestler dude that was looking for his title belt, which didn't exist, and he was just crashed this random party looking for his belt, and he just starts killing everybody wanting his belt. And each time he kills somebody, he takes on like the personality of a different 80s wrestler. So one kill he's like Macho Man Randy Savage, one kill he's Ultimate Warrior. It's just ridiculous, fun, trauma type stuff. And everybody really, we got a lot of positive comments about that, and people seem to really dig it. So I'm a big wrestling fan myself, as you know, love horror movies, but I like wrestling as well. And I'm more into like the 80s, early 90s type when I, watching as a kid.
And there
Well,
aren't really a lot of Russell horror films out there besides the Mexican Santos or
right.
the pro wrestlers versus zombies, those types of films. There's
Yeah,
not.
and there's not a whole lot out there, and that's another reason we were like, well, let's make this into a feature. And Richie really liked the idea, and was really pumped about it, and we're like, let's do this.
Now,
So we could just kind of expanded on it and made it more serious and kind of
and
get
how many wrestlers did you have in this film?
we had Rene Dupree, uh, we had Nikolai Volkov, rest in peace. He just recently passed away. He another amazing person.
Sorry to hear about
Yeah, sweetest guy ever. And he's like a gentle giant. He's big, huge dude. Even at his in his 70s, the guy's still monstrous. And he was just so fun to work with. He would tell us like jokes and stuff in between takes and everything, and had us laughing. And is just a wonderful person. Tony Atlas, he's in the movie. He's along with Nikolai, Tony, and Jimmy Valiant.
that. Okay.
They're all WWE Hall of Famers, legendary wrestlers. And we have Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, as in the movie. We have the Sandman. We quite a few wrestlers. Andy Weinberg, he's a manager for Maryland Championship Wrestling. He does a lot of work in different federations and stuff. But
Okay.
he's another. I guess technically he's not a wrestler, but he's involved in wrestling. Of course, Richie. He's wrestled many years as the Cuban Assassin, and
Okay.
Jimmy Flame. He's another wrestler. Preston Quinn. We tons of wrestlers in it. Tried to kind of pack the movie full of as many wrestlers as we could manage, because
Well,
it's called Wrestle Massacre. You gotta have wrestlers in it.
oh yeah.
Nicholas Yoder as well. Almost forgot about him.
So ultimately, just recently, you released the film, correct?
Yep, it just came out this month.
Okay. And have you had it selling anywhere recently?
Just through me for now. Just did like a self-release thing. Um, Not sure what we want to do with it yet. It's probably going to go up on like Amazon Prime, something like that, so for streaming here soon. Kind of see where it goes. But I don't have like any specific distribution plans or anything. As of now, it'll just be self-distributed.
Okay. And how is its reception so far?
The reception has been great. Everybody, I mean, it just, like I said, just came out, so not everybody has probably even gotten their copies yet, but
Yeah,
everybody.
a friend of mine just bought it from you. He just told me today, so I got one.
Awesome,
So,
glad to hear. But
uh,
but everybody that has watched it so far has told me they enjoyed it. And but again, like I said, it hasn't been a whole lot of people because the DVDs went out recently. So, but yeah, it was people. I was at Scares That Care horror convention in Williamsburg, Virginia, and that's where we debuted the DVDs. We got them in stock just before then, and then I mailed them all out. But the people, a few people that picked it up there contacted me or made a post saying they really enjoyed it and everything. So yeah, it's been very positive, which is always great to hear. I mean, I'm sure that we're gonna get people saying it sucks and stuff too. Um, and it may suck, who knows? But no, it's always um, rewarding to hear a horror fan say they watched your movie and they dug it and they were entertained by it and everything. So because that's my goal is to make I try to make movies that I would want to watch myself, and if people dig them, that's just the icing on the cake. It's great to hear that.
if there was any favorite moments from Wrestle Massacre, Frames of Fear 2, any of the features that we talked about, what would they be?
Um, some of the favorite moments. I mean, each all there's multiple favorite moments, but one I can think of off the top of my head is on Killer Campout, working with John Russo of Night of the Living Dead fame. That was a dream come true. That was really cool. Being a fan of the his movies and everything, having him play a role in Killer Campout was surreal. It was really cool. That was an amazing moment. And James L. Edwards, I got to work with him on Killer Campout as well. I mean, he shot. He did a cameo in Mills vs. Zombies, and
Okay.
but we've become friends over the years. I've been a fan of him as well for a long time. I love the stuff he did with Tempe Entertainment and everything over the years, and working with him again was really cool. Having him on set, and I loved his character he played in the movie. He really brought it to life, and did a killer job with that. But
I
but yeah,
under
those were great.
I understand you worked with Marcus Cock just a little bit on the Wrestle Massacre, and also with I believe the director of Dog Dick, correct?
Yep, James Bell. Yep. Marcus Cook did. He designed. Well, he designed something in the film that I don't want to give away, I guess, but you'll see it in the movie, and it turned out really awesome. But he created this really cool thing in the movie, and did an amazing job with that. And James did some of the special effects for the movie, and he again as well did a killer job making some really sick stuff for the movie. But yeah, I got to work with both of them. They weren't on set per se, but they created the stuff and for the film, and basically sent it to me. I'd
Okay.
love to have had them if I had more money, for the budget. Of course, I'd love to have them on set, but it was still really cool to have their stuff featured in the film.
Understandable. So ultimately, after Wrestle Massacre, you started funding for a new film called Shriek Show. Why don't you tell us a bit about it?
Shriek Show is about a group of young people on Halloween, and they're looking to party, and they go to this abandoned amusement park that's supposedly haunted,
Okay.
and they're there to drink and get laid and all that good stuff, and they run into this weird out of place circus tent that's just kind of in the middle of all this, and it's just weird that it's there, and they're kind of like, what is this? And there they meet this sinister ringmaster who invites them in, and tells them some odd tales about some various items that are featured in his circus tent, and so that's each tale is going to be a different segment. And
Okay, so it's kind of like an anthology in a sense.
oh, it is an anthology. Yep.
Okay, cool. And are you who are you using from any of your previous films? Do you know yet? Or
Yep. Chris O'Brocki and I, we kind of we worked together to come up with the idea and everything. It's going to be heavily featuring a lot of clowns, but different types of clowns. So it's going to be a little bit of everything. But it's got a really cool circusy, creepy. It's going to be definitely probably the creepiest thing I've ever made. It's more. I mean, there's always going to be gore because I always have to do the gore. It's what I love. But this is going to be a lot more focused on atmosphere and just making it really creepy and disturbing, and just work more on that. I think it'll be an interesting movie, different than what I've done in the past. But I have quite a few of my previous casts that I've worked with on this one, and then I have some new ones as well.
okay,
Hopefully we get it off the ground and can get started on it. If all goes well, we're going to start production in October, but we shall see. But yeah, Julio Fernandez is going to be in it, which he was in Killer Campout and Wrestle Massacre, and Luba Hansen I've been working with since Fiendish Fables, and she's been in Killer Campout and Wrestle Massacre as well,
okay.
and it's going to be quite a few. previous actors. We'll see what happens.
Okay, cool. Now, ultimately, Lee, did you have anything else that you wanted to say to the audience about anything that you've done so far, or
I
anything
just
you have?
appreciate any kind of support that I've been shown over the years. I just for anybody to spend their hard-earned money on one of my movies, and that in itself is just means the world to me. That you would be interested enough to put money down on something and not even know if it's going to be terrible or not, which it might be terrible, but hopefully you don't think it's terrible. But basically, I just want to thank everybody for who's ever showed me, any kind of support and bought or watched one of my movies, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully, I at least entertained you for the time of the movie, and or if nothing else, hopefully I gave you a good beer coaster.
Well, you definitely gave me a good notch on my belt. That's for sure.
Yeah, you've been great supporter over the years of my movies. I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you being able to come on tonight and talk with me. I know we talk from time to time, but I appreciate, and this is my appreciation, and hopefully, maybe there are some listeners out there who might like to listen to, us jibber jabber just a little bit.
Hopefully.
So
I'm honored to be on here with you.
At this point, this is where I let people plug where they're from and where you can find your stuff. So why don't you tell us where we can find your the information, where to find some of your films, and where you can find Wrestle Massacre. By the way.
Sure. You can always find it. Find everything on Facebook. Fuzzy Monkey Films. That's any kind of links and everything are always going to be on there to order any of the movies. But there's also fuzzymonkeyfilms.bigcartel.com. That's our Big Cartel store where you can order the DVDs. But yeah, you can always shoot me a message, Brad Twigg, anytime on Facebook too, if you have any questions on how to order or any stuff like that, because people sometimes they're like, "Oh, I can't find where your movies are," or whatever. Just message me, and I'll be happy to show you where.
Well, and also some of your films have been widely distributed.
Right. Yeah. You can get MILFs versus Zombies and Frames of Fear, and those are like you can get those from like Amazon and all the major retailers. Frames of Fear 2 and Killer Campout will be out sometime this year. I'm not sure when, but they'll both be out from Wild Eye Releasing. Then they'll be available.
Sleazebox is also carrying your.
Yeah, and I was going to mention then the Sleazebox, they carry Ghoulish Tales and Fiendish Fables. So yeah, they're all, you could always get stuff through them as well.
Awesome. And my name is David Strege. I went and helped Mr. Brad Twigg on Wrestle Massacres, so I'm definitely very proud of the film. Thank you for coming on again, and for those of you who have enjoyed listening to us talk, definitely give my channel a like, and let me know down in the comments below what you thought, and if there are any questions that you have to ask Brad, maybe I can ask them for you, and get back to me on or Brad about them. I'm sure he'll be able to fan any questions if they come your way.
Yeah.
So. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow night, we have a very cool discussion on the Return of the Living Dead here with the Inside Movies Galore crew. And Brad, you're more than welcome to come back anytime so that maybe we can help promote your next film.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'd love to.
Awesome. Let's say good evening to the folks out there.
Have a good night. Thanks for listening.